Right, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Zionsville Board of Parks and Recreation for Wednesday, December 13th, 2023. Thank you all for coming tonight, and we're going to begin with the roll call. Let's start with Vice President Jill Pack.
Here.
Secretary John Salowitz.
Here.
Ryan Cambridge.
Here.
Chris Barksdale.
Here.
Kimberly Lane.
Here.
Coralie Palmer.
Here.
All 7 of us are present and accounted for. That's a good thing. All right, the next item on the agenda is the November 8th, 2023 minutes. Has everybody had a chance to take a look?
Yes, sir.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion as minutes presented.
John Salowitz makes a motion. We have a second. Kimberly Lane seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show the minutes are accepted by a vote of 7-0. All right, the next item on the agenda is public presentations and comments. And I see we have someone in the audience tonight who would like to make a comment. Please, Becky, if you would give us your name and address, and we'll give you 5 minutes. How about that?
That's perfect. Thank you very much. And I'll say in advance, I hope not to get into a coughing fit. I've recovered from bronchitis, but I have a lingering cough. So I've got some water with me just in case.
All right.
Yes, my name is Rebecca Schumacher. My husband is Pete Miller. Our residence is 10268 Durella. That's D as in dog, URELLA Circle. Our home is in the Von Terra community, and our home is situated facing Overly Warman Park, the parking lot, the picnic shelter area, and the playground area. So I'm here this evening because we definitely wanted to publicly and be on record to extend our thanks and appreciation to you, Jared. Jared has been very quick to be responsive and collaborate with us to identify solutions regarding the view of the parking lot and incidents that have occurred in the park since we first moved in July of 2021. And we also want to thank John. John, thank you. And Jill, thank you. The two of you have always been very quick to respond to our emails and extended yourself to also meet with us. So thank you, all three of you, very much for your support and your guidance. I also just want to offer a friendly suggestion to the board for any future development of parks. We just highly recommend that parks not be developed in the back of a residential community because it does increase traffic and people within the residential community that otherwise would not be there. So it increases a risk factor for those who are residents in the community. And my last point is not really a point, it's a clarification I'm asking of the board. We understand that the park opens at dawn and sunrise and closes at sunset and dusk, correct? That's correct. So we discovered, I referenced different incidences that we've observed in the park, which John and Jared and Jill have been very responsive to give us guidance on. Mostly times that we've called the police have been in relation to the developers of the park. We did call a few times the police with incidences that we were observing in the park. For example, fireworks that were set off during a very dry summer, so it raised fire danger. Secondly, in September, there were 3 cars parked overnight. We spotted those. We were concerned that perhaps those people were injured on the trail, so called the police. We have avoided and ignored kind of an uptick over the fall of people coming into the parking lot at night. And at night, I mean 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, after 10 o'clock, hanging out for as short as 10 minutes up to 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Sometimes they would get out of their car, roam around, hang out in the park, in the picnic shelters, play on the playground equipment, back in their car and leave. Sometimes they would just sit in their car. One incident in October, we didn't call on this either. 2 motorcycles came up through the trail, hung out for a while, hung out in the picnic shelter, left on the trails. So a week and a half later, this was in November, 2 cars pull in. It was a little after 10 o'clock. They parked in the lot, faced us, our home with their lights on, And at that point, we said, you know, this is getting to the point it's becoming more chronic. So we don't want this park to have the reputation that this is the place to go at night and hang out for whatever the reasons are. So we did call the police. The officer informed us that cars could be parked in the parking lot up until midnight and after 5 a.m. So I'm asking the board for some clarification because it seems to be in contradiction to what the rules are. So is this, I don't know, is this a situation like Kroger or Walmart where the store closes and you can hang out in the parking lot, or what? So just asking for clarification about that.
Thank you. Jared, do you want to speak to that? I'm asking Jared because I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I mean, we were quite surprised when the police officer said, well, they're allowed to be there because it's not midnight yet. And that's when our response is, well, we understood the park closes at sunset, at dusk. So people aren't allowed in the park, but a car is. So, you know, that just doesn't align itself.
Okay.
I would suggest just a little bit more coordination with the police department. I would assume that, given the park board authorizes the rules of the park land, that if the park were opened down to dusk, that would include the parking area. So that enforcement of that at dusk and after would be based on that time and not any other ordinances. So I think there's just something I need to speak with Chief Spears and just make sure all the responding units are on the same page.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts on this or anything they want to say? I'm sorry?
Or any questions?
Yeah. I think you've been a great neighbor, and it's been great to work with you over these last couple of years. So thank you for that. And thank you for being positive and collaborative. And, you know, I mean, we want to be good neighbors too. We want the parks to be good for everybody. So thank you. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, thank you. All right, we're going to continue on down the agenda here. The next item is the Pathways Committee update, and Chris Barksdale was at the Pathways Committee meeting last night. Chris?
Yes, so last night we invited John as mayor-elect to join us. The Pathways Committee, I think, has sort of struggled with its identity, trying to figure out what exactly its purpose and its what it is allowed to do or is expected to do. So just had a conversation with John, and some ideas are that with this changeover of administration, we're going to look at getting an ordinance, because there is not currently one for the Pathways Committee, and that being created for the committee to like state a charter. And some of the ideas we have and thoughts are that that committee would report directly to the director of the DPW, and we would prioritize pathways, work towards the bike and walk friendly community designations, and report the first and fourth quarter to the town council of each year, and then utilize and periodically update the strategic pathways plan. So they're going to start working on that in the new year.
An important element of that too is to have one of the engineers from the DPW be the staff assigned to that committee to attend all the committee meetings and ask as a advisor to things that the Pathways Committee does. So I hope we can get on a better track. And I really appreciate your efforts the last couple of years now, right? That you've been our liaison.
6 months, maybe.
Oh, okay. Well, the last 6 months still,
Yeah.
it's been an effort. You know, it's an extra night, and you've done a great job keeping us informed. So thank you for that.
As a former member of that committee, the identity is definitely an issue. So it's great that you're pushing forward. to
Yeah.
that, So.
Yeah. All right.
Take us one step back to Ms. Schumacher's
Sure,
question,
absolutely.
because I did pull up the rules, and under number 13, it does say that no person shall park any motor vehicle or trailer on any park property, including parking areas between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. So perhaps the board needs to address altering that rule. so that
Yeah.
you can only park while the park is open.
That's something we should look at, or that the board should look at in the new year. I think
Yeah.
that's a good idea. And probably be useful. It would be useful to have a discussion with the police chief about that. in the meantime.
Absolutely.
All right, before we go on to staff reports, I just want to make a quick mention here that we have been accredited by the National Wildlife Federation once again. Coralie has worked through this process for 24 years in a row now. Would you like to talk a little bit about what goes into this?
Yes, sure. Thank you. So yes, the community wildlife habitat designation was first got 24 years ago with a group that included Nancy Carpenter, Myrene Brown, and Elizabeth Mueller, who continued that for 22 years, and then Myrene and I have continued it for the last couple of years. And it's a designation that it really, well, Zionsville was the first in Indiana to get that, and the second in the whole of the US. And we are, I think, one of the second longest, I think maybe the longest continuous running one. It recognizes community-wide efforts, and a lot of those have been provided by the Parks Department. Mindy Murdoch worked with Myrene and I to get that, and it recognizes community wildlife habitats, like individual wildlife habitats. It recognizes education in the community to make wildlife friendly spaces, sustainability efforts. A lot of Mindy's parks education programs go towards that, projects by residents, Eagle Scouts. So we tried to amass all of that information, put it into their database and get that certification. So thank you to Mindy and all of the Parks Department for making that possible.
Well, thank you for your efforts on that too. And I didn't mean to put you on that. I did put you on the spot. Thank you for speaking about that. I appreciate that. Any comments about that or anything anybody want to say about that? No? Okay, let's move on then to staff reports. And we begin with our superintendent, Jared Logsdon. Hello again, Jared.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Park Board. Just a couple of items to inform the community with from the superintendent report. Both myself and our naturalist, Rachel, attended the Indiana Parks and Recreation Association annual conference this year in Fort Wayne. Tricia McClellan and I presented on the 5-year master plan and how we had more of a robust strategy with that to make it more of a living, breathing operational document, as well as the traditional master planning template. And our own Rachel Felling discussed a exceptional example of partnerships with community schools and parks and recreation industries or organizations, as she discussed the Nature Connections program that she piloted last year at Eagle Elementary. This year, we're looking to expand that into Trailside Elementary, and the goal for the following year would to be for all Zionsville elementary 3rd graders. So a fantastic program, not only getting kids out in nature, but also satisfying several of their curriculum for their annual courses as a 3rd grader. So just a fantastic program that she was able to highlight and bring to other communities. Staff have also been attending the Corn Belt sessions with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. This is a collaborative online effort gathering stakeholders from around central Indiana to discuss the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to our ecological areas in central Indiana and how we can best position funding to make some of those resources more plentiful, more resilient, and more endorsed. We also celebrated our Zionsville Road Trailhead opening on November 30th, welcoming the community to our first year-round restroom facility in a park, as well as 2 public art installations, both the mural from the Zionsville Parks Foundation, as well as the sculpture that is in the roundabout from a private artist. And finally, we submitted some of the final paperwork for the Next Level Trails Round 2 grant that we received in 2021. So closing out that grant to make us eligible for future grant cycles with that program. So we'll discuss that a little bit more later this evening on the agenda. And that's all from the superintendent report.
Any questions or comments for Jared? Okay, thank you, Jared. We'll see you again in a few minutes, but right now we're going to go to our Director of Maintenance Services, Chris Flanagan. making his way to the microphone. Hello, Chris.
Hello, good evening. Alrighty, so to get started for November, we had no instances of graffiti logged or reported, so I believe that puts us at 3 months in a row, which is pretty good. We spot checked and trimmed cemeteries, prepping those for the winter. We winterized the lawnmowers as well as some other equipment and stored that at the Perkins property. And we've moved down the salt and ice melt to our main facility, so we have that ready to go for the winter. And we took the opportunity to take a few of our fleet vehicles in for regular maintenance. On the Big Four Rail Trail, we removed additional construction debris from along the rail trail as they finished, and we've begun reinstalling dog waste bins and other infrastructure along the trail. Blue leaves and debris from the trail. We helped prep the trailhead for the grand opening on Zionsville Road. We did place some reflective markers along the trail. You'll notice those are on manhole covers, so if we do get a snow event, we can be wary of those as we're plowing. And we collected and stored the tree water bags from the northern addition for the winter. At Carter Station, we did some additional brush chipping from some invasive removals that we had, and we continued to maintain the spring knoll pin oaks and Carter Station plantings. At Heritage, we mowed and tilled over the garden plots as well as removed trash and debris from the compost areas, threw the trash away, and took the compostable debris to Perkins for chipping up. We placed tree supports on the new dog park trees, and we planted a pollinator garden in the roundabout circle. That was with 38 plugs that were donated by a resident of Zionsville, including false aster, Joe Pye weed, and some coneflower. At Creekside, we did additional chipping of brush and debris from the weed wrangles. At Elm Street, we mowed and tilled over the garden plots, just like Heritage, removed trash and debris from the compost areas, threw the trash away, chipped up the debris at Perkins, and we removed and stored the walking storyboards for the winter. At Mulberry, in the chase at the restroom, we helped prevent those pipes from freezing and bursting. We did have to troubleshoot and do a small repair on the door latch to prevent people from getting into that while it's shut down for the winter. We did hang some court label numbers on the pickleball courts, and at the end of the month, we removed and stored those nets for the winter. At Starkey Park, we blew leaves and debris from the switchbacks and just did general, made sure we kept the natural trails down there clear. At Turkey Foot, we did trim back vegetation and prep for the Thanksgiving race. And also something I forgot to put in the report that we did do also is we replaced over a dozen deck boards for safety, and we reinforced the joists underneath to make sure that those would be safe for the race and just in general. Most of the rest of it is just blowing leaves and debris because it was, the month of November, leaves are coming down. And at Overly Warman, we did install the mountain bike trail rules and directional signage. And at the tennis court and tot lots, we removed and stored those nets for the season. And that is the report for November.
Any questions or comments for Chris?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Chris.
very much.
I have a question about the tennis court and tot lot. Amy,
Yeah, that was,
we have voted to give that to the Lions Club. I understand the Lions Club has voted to accept it. When will that transfer take place?
Well, Jared and I were just talking about that earlier today. So since the Lions Club has accepted it, has voted to receive it, then we can do the deed and the mayor can sign it.
Okay.
So that's our next step.
Is that going to happen by the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
We can do that, yep.
So maybe you've blown the leaves out of there for the last time. So, all right.
give them their nets back.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is the Director of Recreation Services, Mindy Murdoch.
All right, good evening. So the month of November, still busy, a little over 1,000 walk-ins to the Nature Center, which is actually very good considering there were multiple days throughout the month of November with holidays, with voting, and then with library staff training that the Nature Center was actually closed. So it was not open the entire month, but we still reached over 1,000. Just a few things to highlight. We did go out to Trailside Elementary twice in November, once for their Beast Feast to do some programming. It's a program that was started at Union Elementary and then traveled to Trailside with the principal. So that was well received. This is, I think, the second year that we've been there. Before that, we were at Union quite a bit for that one. And then we were also called back to do their first ever STEM night that we were a part of as well. So some nice turnout, be able to talk to a lot of families, sharing a lot of information about Winterfest that was coming up. As far as programming goes, I wanted to highlight one since our neighbor is here. So we did have an owl prowl out at Overly Warman Park. So that is probably the one and only time when we kind of go outside of the dawn dusk rules for our parks, is when we're doing a park program, which is led by our staff. So the owl prowl at Overly Warman was one of them. I know this last week we did a luminary walk also at Overly Warman Park. So they are there. Overly is actually a really good park to do evening programming in, because it's a nice, easy access for people to park there. And right where the shelter is, right by the parking lot, it's a good place to set up before you take people out into the woods. So we, of course, are very careful with that one. And I've been also sending those now to the police department, so they're aware of when we will actually be in some of our parks after hours. So we also had a very interesting program led by our naturalist Sierra with Battle of the Turkeys right before Thanksgiving. I actually got a couple emails and phone calls and things from people that did attend it. They thought it was kind of fun and interesting. So something new. And then we also did our first ever games with grandparents at Town Hall. So that was very well received and had a lot of grandparents asking if we are planning on doing that again. So I think we'll try to look at doing it maybe every quarter or twice a year or so. Just one other few things, since we wouldn't be here if we weren't highlighting some stuff going on Winterfest. So we have our last luminary walk of the year at Creekside next Tuesday. If you haven't made it out to one of them, I recommend you come on out from 6 to 8. And we also have this Saturday, we have our Makers Market down on Brick Main Street. We're partnering with the Chamber. And so we're able to do it down there. And we have over 45 different vendors. So if you need some last minute holiday gifts, if you didn't buy all the t-shirts, you can come on down and do that. I did throw in there, just because I was not here last month because I was at the county eclipse meeting. I threw back in the information about the Creek Stomper. So just in case anyone had any questions or things of that one. So we did roll out and finish up our year with our outreach with the Creek Stomper the end of October. The last thing she was at was our Trick or Treats event. So looking at all of the different events, she was a part of all of the private rentals, the birthday parties. We were a little over 7,500 people that we participated in. I did not include when she was in the Fall Festival Parade, just because I was not going to try to count those people that were there. But you can see she did 10 park and plays over the summer, 6 visits to HOAs. Some of those unfortunately did get canceled because of air quality. We did some special events through the parks, as well as some special community events with the farmers market, Touch a Truck at the library, National Night Out with the police department, and then of course 4 private rentals. So I also listed on there a lot of new additions that we were able to add to her this year, thanks to some sponsorships and some donation money. And then just, the big one is what's next for next year. We'll continue to add some new materials to her. We're looking to expand our HOA offerings and other community events now that I do have our rec coordinator on staff. And we will be adding a mobile nature center to our mix with the purchase of a van, hopefully sometime in 2024. So if you guys have any questions.
Any comments or anything for Mindy?
Always doing a great job.
Thank you. I need a name for the van. If you can come up with something just as cool as the Creek Stomper.
Yeah.
So everything we've been trying, we're like, well, that's a type of vehicle, like the Trailblazer, the Explorer. Yeah, I was like, you need something that's not an actual vehicle that would work with the Creek Stomper. So.
Well, I'm sure you'll think of something great. And, I was going to say that it has been a great year. You've done such a great job with our recreational services this year, gotten so many people engaged, and if I could reach, I'd pat you on the back. I think you've done a great job, and your staff has done a great job.
Got a good staff. Yep.
Fantastic stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. Next up, a report on the golf course. I see Mike's not in the room, but Jared, I guess, can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I prefer to give a couple highlights from Mike's report. With the shortened month of November, the revenue was still at $16,254. There was 1,033 rounds still played in November, and that brought us to a total for the year of 26,837 rounds of golf played. November 10th through 11th, the greens were aerated. So this is a procedure for bringing some life and oxygenation into the greens and just give them a little bit more health for the next following season. The carts have also been winterized and stored at their off-site location for the season. So the golf course has closed up shop for the year.
A successful year.
All right.
Absolutely.
If there's no further questions, we'll move on. The next item on our agenda is our report from our Parks Attorney, Amy Nooning. Amy.
I don't have anything apart from the items that are in new business.
Okay. Then we'll just move on to new business. I know you're going to have a lot to say tonight. And the first item under new business, Jared, are we going to go with the fee schedule?
Yes.
Okay, the resolution to adopt the 2024 Parks and Recreation Department fee schedule.
So annually, we establish the fees for our programs and services to the community, both for our residents and for any visiting patrons that might come from other communities. So the ideology behind that separation in cost is that the majority of these services utilize infrastructure that was paid for with Zionsville taxes. So that fees or that infrastructure is baked into the cost for those services. And then there is a slight upcharge to non-residents as they visit and utilize our services. So the majority of these are staying the same. So our community garden price points will stay the same, $20 for a raised garden bed or a 10x10 plot, or $25 for the 20x20 plot. Shelter reservations staying the same, $50 for a half day or $100 for the full for residents, and $65 and $130 for non-residents. Dog park memberships staying the same as well. That's $75 for the year for a single dog, $50 per additional, and a flat $120 for non-residents that utilize the dog park. New this year, or proposed for next year, sorry. The single renting of a sports field, the 4-hour rate remains the same at $5 for local organizations and $10 for visiting organizations. But after finally turning on the lights, and a huge round of applause for Chris Flanagan for solving that 4-year mystery that we've been trying to crack for the past, since I've been here. So we're able to turn on the lights, and we also received the electric bill from that. So we proportionally prorated the light service. So if a field does wish to turn those on, it will be $45 for the local team and $65 for a visiting team for that 4-hour session. Also new proposed for next year, we had several requests for organized events and tournaments at the pickleball courts, just placing a fee with that. So as the public is inconvenienced with those closures, we can also recover some of that for the wear and tear that happens. So proposing $5 an hour per court for that, or $10 for non-resident groups. And again, using extreme discretion with that, or discretion, sorry, realizing how hot of a commodity our pickleball courts are, but also offering that opportunity to build community and have those groups utilize our courts. Moving down to park special events, the majority of this staying the same, just having a fee not to exceed $75 an hour. So if there's an opportunity to have a rock wall pop up in one of our parks and the cost break would be $75 an hour, then we could proceed with that program with approval from the park board. Winterfest rink reservation, we won't have that for 24, but just leaving that in the ordinance as we move forward. Creek Stomper events, new to this year, we started having those for $150 an hour, as well as Creek Stomper birthdays, $100 for residents and $125 for non-residents. Memorial program staying the same, $600 for a tree and $2,000 for a bench. That not only buys the equipment, but also has a percentage that goes towards the replacement of that item should it be vandalized in that warranty period. School programs largely staying the same, $3 per student with a $50 minimum for our local schools and $4 per student with a $50 minimum for our neighboring schools. New this year, I want to discuss, so we have the base rate for outreach programs that go into a facility, and that is $50 a program. But understanding that, you know, as we continue to grow, we're trying to transition our recreation side of our parks system to be more self-sufficient and recover a little bit more of the actual cost that goes into programming. So we proposed a fee for outreach events to neighboring communities as well for the next year. So setting that limit at a 10-mile max distance to pop up those programs for adjoining community members that want to see how exceptional our program is in their community. And that only strengthens our brand as we've learned, as we've taken surveys from previous programs. While we do primarily service the Zionsville populace, there are a number of neighboring communities from Westfield or West Clay that come over and participate in our program. So all opportunities to strengthen our brand and continue to provide exceptional recreational opportunities. Moving down, again, previously established rates for the Nature Center birthday parties, $150 for 10 kids and $165 for non-resident parties. And our sponsorships for the animals remaining the same as the 2023 rates as well. Moving down to the Zionsville Golf Course for 2024, proposing the same rates for green fees and carts. And relatively the same for the season passes, just a couple changes in the language surrounding those. So rather than having a couples pass, it is now just a adult pass that or additional family member that can be added to that. It's the same rate, just changing up the language there. So, and again, concession, no item at the Zionsville Golf Course is going to cost you $50.01. And we won't purchase any merchandise that will be over the $500 limit, but some of those clubs we do sell are pretty close to that. So that is all from the 2024 proposed fee schedule, and I'm happy to answer any questions or comments.
I have one thing with the pickleball. I would suggest maybe adding $5 an hour per court. You know, you have per field for the sports field, but you mentioned per court. It's not stated in here, so.
It's actually over to the left. I just highlighted it, but you're right. It's not where I should change the formatting of that.
Yeah.
Yep. I have it over here.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, I missed it. Yeah. Okay.
Nope, that's on me.
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to make sure that.
Yep.
I have a question as well under the pickleball. Have we so far been monitoring usage on day of the week or time of day?
Yeah, so primarily it seems we have a morning group or two that occupy the courts during the morning hours. There seems to be a little bit of an afternoon lull, and then we actually get some younger players in the summertime that are coming around 1 p.m.-ish, kind of in the heat of the day, ironically, but
it's when they wake up.
That's fair. And then at evening, we're not monitoring that quite as closely because most of us are off. But it does seem to be a pretty routine and practiced patrons that come out. And
I didn't know if we see a lot of use on a weekend, did we want to maybe increase a weekend rate slightly and have it less during the weekdays, or just leave it as is, but maybe lower during the weekdays or lower during certain times?
Mm-hmm. And true, and it's truly only for those organized events, which just in our first year of operation, I think we had 2 or 3 requests for the whole 6 months. So those were pretty easy to accommodate. We just did it with the previous Mulberry Fields rental rate. So just breaking out that for pickleball is kind of our goal. But for the most part, the community seems to come out, and the culture of pickleball is to wait your turn and use the paddle system. So it's worked out pretty well.
No fist fights at the pickleball court yet, right?
None so far.
That's good.
Not caught on
That's
camera.
good. Well, one item that I have, and Jared and I have talked about this, is the dog park. And I would like to see us move to model where we're not charging for the dog park. You know, I think the fees for the first several years have helped pay for the dog park and pay for the fence and some of the equipment that we have there. So obviously, we're not going to do that tonight, but I think in future years, I may ask the park board to consider removing that fee from the dog park. So that's something you can take up at a future time, but I'd like to put that in the back of everybody's mind, that
Would
maybe
you
it's time to
still,
let it go.
would you still require fobs and people to have documentation that their dogs have been properly vaccinated?
Well, the way, and it seems to be the custom around here, right, to have it locked and charge people and check on the health of the dogs and all that. Although in most other places, that's not the case. Dog parks are open to dogs. And, we're assuming that people are going to take the liability on if they, are not taking care of their animals the way they should and acting the way they should. But I just think it's something to consider. Maybe the answer is going to be no, but I think it's something to consider, as a community asset to open up the dog park to.
I'm not averse to the no fee. It's more the making sure that the dogs have been properly vaccinated, mainly because you have people that won't vaccinate their pets, and those are the same people that won't have insurance.
Right.
And when their dog does something, then the liability falls back on the town.
So you take responsibility, I guess, if you go there, you're taking responsibility on yourself. You've been in other places, right? I mean, in a lot of other places, most other places, there isn't a fee for an additional fee for the dog park.
Yeah, and a good analogy I could think of just off the top of my head is when you visit a park, whether there's a lifeguard or if it's a swim at your own risk. I think if we were to remove the fee recovers some of the costs associated with the monitoring, with the fob system, with the security. I think we would move away from that model if we remove the fee and have to update our language on our signage, just stating that risk is on the owner much more so. Not to say that that's not a good model as well. Throughout the country, I've been to dog parks where there's no fee, but then you also see the off article of a parvo outbreak or something like that. So it's all just about understanding what risk we want to take as a community and then just moving forward with that model.
Yeah, I think things to consider. I've worked on quite a few dog parks in different communities across the country, and there's a lot of different models. It's not necessarily right or wrong one way or the other per se, but when you look at the cost of the amenity you're offering, I think for example, if we went to a no fee structure, I would be curious in that circumstance, like would our insurance premiums for that amenity increase, right? Like I would want to look at the total, either net gain or loss, and maybe there's a happy medium where we can find a way to make the fee as minimal as possible, so that it's more accessible. But I think in my case, looking sort of retrospectively, almost all dog parks started out as free, and then this fee structure emerged because of issues they encountered with management associated with liability, vaccination, and things like that, and a lot of times overuse.
Yeah.
I don't know that we would have that issue here, given the size of the park and the size of the community, but the fee structures emerged in response to challenges presented in managing those facilities. So I think I would want to do a deeper dive and look at what are our actual costs associated with some of the mitigation sort of best practices that are in place, and is it commensurate with the fee that we're charging? How does that fee compare to other sort of benchmark communities locally in the dog parks that they offer? Are there ways to reduce it? And if we eliminate it, then what's our strategy for either absorbing that cost or changing sort of our policies of how we educate people about the facility they're using?
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting it was simple. There are a lot of factors to consider. I was just suggesting that maybe that's something the Parks Board may want to consider next year. But for now, we have it in our fee document and our resolution, or our the resolution establishing the fees for next year. So I'd say we keep it for next year, keep the proposal as it is, and then maybe think about it for 2025. If that's agreeable to everybody.
Yes, I think let's look into it. Let's look at those numbers, and data is power. So.
Okay, so with that in mind, do we have a resolution to accept the fee structure for next year?
So moved.
Ryan Cambridge makes a resolution to keep the fee structure as stated for next year. Any second?
I'll second.
John Salowitz seconds. Let's take a vote. Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Coralie Palmer,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. Passes 7-0. Thank you for the discussion, Jared. Thank you for putting that together. All right, the next item on the agenda is declaration of the special restriction for next level trails. And Amy, are you going to speak to this or are we going to start with Jared?
I can speak to this one. Yep. This may sound familiar because this is something that we did several months ago with regard to some of the parcels of the trail, but just to refresh your memory, since Next Level Trails grant funds were used to develop and expand the rail trail, the DNR requires that we put some restrictive language on each one of those parcels so that they are used in perpetuity for recreational trail purposes. This is a deed restriction. It's a restriction that'll run with the land forever. So we had previously done that on a few of the parcels. Jared is working with the DNR to identify the remaining parcels that we need. We're still getting some information back from them on that. So I would recommend, if you're so inclined, to entertain a motion to authorize John to execute the documentation necessary to put this restriction on the remaining parcels that DNR tells us we need it on. And just to remind you what this restriction language is, in the declaration of special restriction, which will be recorded, it says, the intent of the Next Level Trails program is to preserve and develop important recreational trail resources throughout the state of Indiana for the use and enjoyment of the citizens of the state and others. Property developed under the Next Level Trails program will be used solely for recreational trail purposes in perpetuity.
So we're essentially cleaning up the paperwork.
Yeah, we're cleaning up paperwork on a few other parcels. And there's one parcel that sort of wasn't on our radar, but DNR kind of raised, which is the, what is it, NC, it's the North Connector #1. We have like a nomenclature for each one of these little parcels. And so DNR identified one that needed to be done. We have one that was on our radar that needs to be done. And then there's another parcel that's owned by the school, but we have a pathway easement on that. So also you could add to your motion to authorize John and us to discuss with and negotiate with the school, whatever is necessary in order for them to put the restriction on, if that's what DNR says is needed.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, any questions?
Does all this need to be done like before the transition with, in January with leadership or?
Well, I think I think our goal is to get it all done by the end of the year.
Okay.
So, the grant can be closed out. That was one of the questions to DNR, if they, need it all by the end of the year. We're prepared to do it by the end of the year, as soon as we identify with DNR what those legal
And it's
descriptions are.
feasible still to get it done by the end of the year?
Yes, oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yes, I have a deed here tonight for John to sign, and then when we identify the legal descriptions of those other parcels, it'll be just the same thing. So, yes, we can do that. If there is any delay, like on receiving additional information from DNR, we can carry this into next year too. That's not a problem on our end, as long as it's not a problem with the DNR.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're essentially saying we're going to use this as a trail, that we're not going to build condos in the middle of it or
Yes.
whatever. So,
Right.
yeah, it's,
And it was a known precondition of the grant
Right.
funding program.
Right.
Like just the land water conservation funds.
Exactly.
So if the motion is to just allow the board president to execute the documents, it would be able to carry over until next year,
Yes.
since
that
we would
be
have a
fine.
new president.
There you go.
I make a motion to allow the board president to execute the declaration of special interest for the next whatever
Next level.
Next level.
trail grant
Yeah.
perpetuity.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Hold on, I'm sorry. Should we include your ability to negotiate with the school board in one
Yes,
motion? or
and,
do we need a separate motion?
I would just include that.
Include that, okay.
Okay. Are we good? Do we have a second? All
Second.
right. Well, Coralie raised her hand, so we'll go with Coralie. Now let's take a vote. Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane, Coralie Palmer.
Aye.
And I say aye as well, making it unanimous. Thank you, everybody. All right, the next item on the agenda, Jared, is the Carpenter Nature Preserve Maintenance Facility lease.
As we discussed earlier in the year, moving forward with the design and development of the Carpenter Nature Preserve, there is an opportunity to lease out the maintenance facility that is on site and just have a organization utilize that building while we're not utilizing that building. So first step in our process for that, issued by state statute, is to acquire 2 fair market rental appraisals. We have reached out to multiple organizations asking for proposals. I would still like to keep reaching out and grab a couple more price points just to make sure we're getting the best deal for those leases, for those appraisals. And ultimately, any cost associated with those appraisals, we would recover in the leasing process. So we might upfront pay for these appraisals, but we would work that into the lease so that we recover that as a park system. So with your consideration this evening, I would propose that we proceed with, after legal review from Amy, to authorize John to sign up to 2 fair market appraisal proposals, not to exceed $4,500. At which point we'll execute those and get those rolling and be that one step closer to leasing the maintenance facility.
What is included of the maintenance? Like what would be included in the lease of that facility?
The lease would be the square footage of the building, 20 feet around the perimeter, and then access via the entrance drive. So we would have the utilities paid for by the leasee, as well as requiring insurance, I'm sure, for operations, and then any costs associated with creating this lease.
And it's occupied with the small engine repair company, right?
Yes, yes. Currently, there is a small engine repair that the park system utilizes regularly, and they would have the same chance as everyone else to apply for that lease.
And this only extends until the time that the park's open to the public. So it's, for the next couple of years. So do we have a motion to accept the lease as presented?
Request for appraisals.
Accept authorization to execute 2 proposals for the fair market appraisals not to exceed $4,500.
I will make a motion that we authorize the board president to accept 2 proposals for appraisals of the property not to exceed $4,500.
Okay, Ryan Cambridge makes a motion. Chris Barksdale seconds. Let's take a vote. Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Ryan Cambridge.
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane, Coralie Palmer,
Aye.
and I will say aye as well, making it unanimous. Thank you. All right, the next item, Jared.
All right, as a part of our 2018 layer project, which restored just under 300 linear feet of bank along Starkey Park, we did have the condition of our floodplain permit to continue monitoring for 3 years. And at that time, there had to be a 75% survival rate of that reforestation planting. We heard back from our consultant, which earlier in the year we recruited to write that report and issue it to DNR. And we were around 42% of survivability of those trees. So in order to remain compliant with our floodplain permit, we'll need to reach that 75% at least. So the change order before you this evening is for the planting of 45 trees in that reforestation area. Because we were under that rate, we will have to monitor for a 4th year. And should we have that survivability next year, we'll be done reporting for that project with the DNR.
You know what the reasoning behind the non-survivability?
Just saplings being saplings.
Didn't know there was, erosion, or with any specific.
No, just the success rate of young trees. We did have some volunteer hackberry and other species that infiltrated the site, and those did count in our favor. So that was nice. But again, it's still under that 75%.
It was being 45 to 75. It seemed like,
There was definitely a masked off, and with, the warm summers and just being a young tree shaded out or other things.
I mean, 3 gallon is a very small.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
No.
So par for the course, unfortunately.
All right, any more discussion? Do we have a motion then to accept the change order for the trees in Starkey Park?
So moved.
Kimberly Lane makes a motion. We have a second.
Second.
John Salowitz makes a second. Let's take a vote. Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Ryan Cambridge.
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane, Corley Palmer,
Aye.
and I make it unanimous as well. All right. Next item, Jared, transcription services.
All right, as a park board and Parks Department, we began transcription services in 2022 with a consultant. This was after we looked at the process we had in place, which was staff rewatching park board meetings and typing up notes. This just streamlined that effort and provided a true manuscript for what was discussed. And each park board meeting, it's a digitized format, so it can be researched in the future when 50 years from now, people are asking, what were they thinking? We'll be able to look back and know exactly. So this proposal before you is for a continuation of transcription services into 2024. It is the same rate of 20 cents per line, and that was the same rate as 2023 and 2022. So this helps us a lot. It frees up some of Bonnie's time as her responsibilities have expanded with the dog park and with the garden plot program and the MAC responsibilities.
Any questions, comments?
Definitely an improvement. So
Yeah, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the new contract with VG Transcription.
Okay, Jill Pack makes a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Ryan Cambridge seconds. Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Salowitz.
aye.
Ryan Cambridge.
Aye.
Chris Barksdale.
Aye.
Kimberly Lane.
Aye.
Corley Palmer.
Aye.
And I say aye as well, making it unanimous. All right, anything else under new business, Jared?
No, I believe that's it for new business.
Okay. Then we will move on to old business. And the number one item there is the donation for the Carpenter Nature Preserve Amphitheater.
Thank you, John. As we discussed previously, the Parks Foundation and a anonymous donor are working together to fill out some of the amenities that could be at Carpenter Nature Preserve. So with our funding in place, we envisioned what phase one of construction would be. And through this generous donation, there is the opportunity to add an outdoor amphitheater day one when the park opens to be enjoyed by our programming. And this amphitheater, it's not one that's going to have large amplified music and rock concerts or Aerosmith or anyone coming in. It's really just a place setting for gathering and having small programs with seating. So this donor has requested that, naming rights according to our naming rights policy. So at the completion of the amenity, we will display the name that's agreed upon between our organizations on that amenity, and the community will begin to enjoy it. So working with Amy, we were able to finalize a memorandum of understanding between the Parks Foundation, the donor, and the park board. And with your consideration and authorization, we can execute the MOU and have the Parks Foundation accept funds on behalf of the amphitheater construction. At which point, when that amenity is constructed, we will receive reimbursement from the Parks Foundation.
Do we have any idea of the cost of that, the total construction cost of that amenity, and how that compares to the donation amount?
It is 100% match based on our construction estimate with the donation requested for this item.
Anyone else?
So this amphitheater would be more what you can, like, you go to a scout
Yep.
camp, that type of.
Kind of like an open air pavilion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
More than a stage.
and likely built into the earthen hillside
Hillside, yeah.
underneath the nature center. Mindy has had exceptional success with gathering people around a campfire, much like moths and lightning bugs. So should we be able to have campfires at Carpenter Nature Preserve, we anticipate filling up that space pretty quickly. So
I make a motion to accept the MOU as presented.
We have a motion to accept the MOU as presented. We have a second. Corley Palmer seconds. Jill Pack,
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane,
Aye.
Corley Palmer,
Aye.
and I say aye as well. All right. Okay, next item, Jared, Fright Night.
Earlier this year, we came to the park board with the idea to partner with Maple Lawn Farmstead and offer a new haunted house opportunity in our community named Fright Nights. So the goal was for this project to be a fundraiser for Maple Lawn Farmstead with any proceeds after expenses, and also just to provide recreational opportunities and community events for some of our harder to reach demographics, our teenagers and our young adults and families. So the estimate for the first year of operations was quoted right around $8,000, and we were right in that ballpark. So we were actually a little bit under. So the total expense, hard expenses for the event was $7,273.08, and the total revenue was $7,277. So we had about a $3.92 difference between expenses and revenue brought in. So pretty close to breaking even for the first year. And we do anticipate around $2,000 to $3,000 of those expenses to drop off for subsequent years, just because it was startup costs for the set design and some of the items that were purchased by Maple Lawn. So definitely a pretty successful program. We would like to continue to explore this in the future and make it something that actually generates revenue for the nonprofit Maple Lawn Farmstead's mission. So just wanted to provide that analysis and happy to answer any questions. We had a pretty great turnout the first couple of weekends and quite a few troopers on Halloween night. But as you remember, it was pretty chilly on Halloween, and we were just happy to have some people walking through the door.
So that's great. We're not looking for a motion to carry this on next year. This is just informational.
Just information at this
Okay.
point.
Yeah. Well, good job estimating the first year expenses. Coming within,
Appreciate seeing this level of detail. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep.
coming within $3.92 is pretty good. So
Pretty good for 910 tickets.
that is pretty good. That is pretty good.
And
Okay.
coming under budget too.
Well, and I
Anybody-
think as the first year, there's, you're overcoming that sort of lack of awareness. But you haven't had the benefit of word of mouth and stuff. It becoming a tradition or anything yet. So hopefully that will continue on, and maybe we'll see some more days in the week, in the future where that opens up. Because I know in some of the folks that I talked to, that was part of the challenge, right? Fall is typically pretty busy for a lot of folks. So when it's only open a couple of days, a month, then you're either available or you're not, but we got to have the numbers to make more days work. So we'll see where we end up.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And I'll offer a quote from one of our sixth graders that experienced it. They said it was the best night of their life. So we will try to top that next year.
Okay. All right. Any other comments about that? Questions? No? All right, let's move on then to Overly Warman Park.
I just wanted to provide an update. Tricia and I continue to meet with the contractor on site. They have made significant progress on the punch list items that are outstanding in recent weeks. The majority of the concrete nodes, which were surfaced with the material that made them slippery whenever there was the slightest bit of moisture in the air, the majority of those have been pulled and replaced and poured to spec and given the thumbs up. So they have 2 more concrete nodes to complete, a little bit more grading and seeding around the site, but they really are making a pretty honest effort of wrapping that project up now. So they are operating in good faith at this time. So I just wanted to provide that update to the board. We'll remain vigilant with them and in communication and get that wrapped up just as quickly and responsibly as we can.
And we do have the advantage of having our board member, Ryan Cambridge, not only living there, but having a great deal of expertise in the issues that we have had at the park. And I think you walk there every day, right, with your dog?
A couple times. Yeah.
So you are keeping an eye on things.
I'm sure I am not loved by them.
That's okay. You're loved by us. So what is
There
it
you
that you want to say anything about the work they're doing? Are you feeling?
Yeah, I
comfortable?
mean, I see, what was clear in the meeting that we had with them a couple months ago was that it's an entirely different crew. I maintain that park construction is not really their forte. I think it's a little bit more bridge deck stuff, but I do think they're making a genuine effort to address some of the punch list items the way the specs and contract drawings indicate they should. And I trust that you and Tricia are holding them accountable to that. I have no reason to believe otherwise based on what I've seen. I was really happy to see the nodes replaced because that was a Band-Aid on a Band-Aid on a Band-Aid. So good to see that addressed. And as I've said, I am back there very frequently and am happy to check in on anything or report back as needed. I'm, just kind of at your disposal as relevant. So let me know.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, are you have anything else, Jared?
Just a couple of other board-related items. As our capital projects are winding down, one of the requirements of closing out the paperwork is to issue the substantial completion. Provided to the park board were two certificates of substantial completion, one for the pickleball courts, which have been done for a minute, as well as one for the Zionsville Road trailhead. So both of those projects were with JBM Construction, and as the year winds down and those final pay apps are ready to go out, we just want to close out everything. So with your authorization, I would request that the park board president sign those substantial completions backdated to the dates that those milestones were achieved, knowing that Tricia and I have vetted the process so far and monitored the punch list for those projects. And I would say they're all but wrapped up except for this paperwork. So
I would have one question about that. And a couple of pickleball players have talked about a crack on the pickleball courts. And I went over there and looked at that. It didn't seem like the crack was that big to me, but maybe if the ball lands right on it, it is a problem. Is that something that maybe Chris can speak to it, or maybe you can speak to it, Jared? Is that something we should be worried about, or Tricia even?
we'll call
Tricia
on the big
McClellan
ones.
from REA.
As Ryan will agree, concrete cracks. So
really good at that.
it is really good at that. So it is normal, what we're seeing out there. The proper reinforcement was in there. There's nothing structurally wrong with it. The most important thing is just to stay on top of maintenance and resurfacing and we'll have an operations and maintenance manual to stay on top of that resurfacing as it's prescribed, so those cracks don't get worse. I started a little informal study looking at all concrete tennis and pickleball courts that I see as I'm driving around to different projects, and I haven't found one yet that's outdoors that doesn't have cracks in it.
So we shouldn't be worried about that, in other words. Okay, all right. Do we need a resolution on that, or do we need to make a motion for that, or
Just a motion to authorize you to sign those two documents.
two certificates of substantial completion?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to, the board president to sign the significant completions of the pickleball court and the
Zionsville.
trailhead.
Yep.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ryan Cambridge seconds. Can I take a quick vote? Joe Pack,
Aye.
John Salowitz,
Aye.
Ryan Cambridge,
Aye.
Chris Barksdale,
Aye.
Kimberly Lane.
Aye.
Coralie Palmer.
Aye.
All right, and I'll make it unanimous. So we'll go ahead and sign those tonight. All right, anything else, Jared?
One other board-related
Okay.
item. So earlier this year, the board did authorize myself and John to discuss opportunities to invite, when groups request to go out to the Carpenter Nature Preserve, whether that's to hold a board meeting on behalf of the Nature Conservancy or our local sheriff to have a training opportunity, that we could authorize those special use permits. We have a slightly different one in front of us now. It is with Butler University. For years, they have been conducting studies to understand how wildlife interacts with urban areas. And Wolf Run, formerly the golf course, was one of those sites as far back, actually up until 2019. So that was one of their favorite sites to collect data and just understand the populations and the species that are cohabitating with us in these urban areas. So the request came before us that we would partner with Butler University again, and they would place one camera on the site to collect 4 months of data quarterly, 1 month throughout the 2024 year. So this will be before it's open to the public, just to continue to collect that data. So with your approval and authorization, we'll move forward with our special use permit with Butler University to place that camera. And they are more than happy to share that data and let us know what inhabitants are already out at Carpenter. I think we just place it at 2024 for right now. And then as we're getting closer to that park opening, we can discuss as a board and as a community whether we want a research camera on the site permanently.
And this is no cost to us, no payment from them.
No cost, no payment, just access.
Okay.
Do you need a motion for that as well?
Yeah, if I could.
Please.
Kimberly Lane makes a motion to place a camera by Butler University researchers at the Carpenter Nature Preserve. Do we have a second? Coralie Palmer seconds. I think we can do this by acclamation, right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The record show that passes 7-0.
Thank you, Park Board. This information is actually done to the same methodology and provided on an international stage. So there are communities around the world using this data as a base level for some of their research. So it's pretty cool to have one of our parks be a part of that.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is the claims, and the claims were amended and sent separately. So has everybody looked at the correct claims, first of all?
Yes.
And does anyone have any questions or comments about them?
No, sir.
Would anyone like to make a motion to accept the claims as presented?
So moved.
Ryan Cambridge makes a motion to accept the claims as presented. Do we have a second?
Second.
Jill Pack seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that passes 7-0. Well, before we adjourn here, I just wanted to make a statement here and take a moment to thank everyone and let you know how much I've appreciated this journey the past few years. When we hired Jared 4 years ago, we talked about this a lot. I told him he had two jobs: maintaining the parks as they are today and improving the parks today, and also planning for future green space as the town grows. And I think he has handled both of those jobs exceedingly well the last few years. But I will say he hasn't done it alone. Mindy has done a great job expanding our recreation programs exponentially, really. Chris and his crew, do a great job in the parks. They look great. The golf course gets better every year. And, our department gets great support from people like Tricia and Amy, and really everybody here on the Parks Board. There is a reason that our parks are pretty much universally loved. And I think it's because of the care and commitment of so many of you to make sure that Zionsville has spaces that contribute to our mental health, our quality of life, and sustainability. So thank you for all that you do. And I obviously will be rolling off of the Parks Board next year. However, I will be watching closely with great anticipation to see what you do next and see what comes next. And again, I just want to thank you for all you do and offer my help to any way that I can help in the coming years. And obviously, Cash and I will see you out there on the trails. We're looking forward to it. So with that in mind, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Sorry, John, can I just say really quickly something? So I'm coming to the end of my term. I had a year-long term serving as at the appointment of Mayor Emily Styron, and I'd like to thank her for giving me the opportunity to serve. I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to serve with such a committed board and with such a knowledgeable staff. And I'd also like to thank both John and Jill for their leadership, because how this board is able to support the Parks Department so effectively is in very large part thanks to John and Jill's professionalism and dedication. So I would like to congratulate you, John, with moving to mayoral duties, to thank you for your leadership. And I'd like to express the hope that there might be continuity of leadership next year if Jill Pack is able to continue to serve on this board. So I'd like to thank you.
Well, thank you. That's very nice. Does anybody else have anything they also want to say before we adjourn?
No, I'll make a motion to adjourn with the caveat that I'm a firm believer, and I think the data supports it, that all great communities have great parks, and you can't have great parks without great leaders who champion them. at the top level. So I'm excited to know that the park board president is becoming our mayor, and I look forward to the way that you think about parks and your dedication to our parks and green spaces as it relates to our community holistically and all the things that you listed, in addition to all the fun stuff that we know we all do with them. So I look forward to that and wish you the best. And with that, make a motion to adjourn.
Well, that's very nice. Thank you. And before we accept that motion, I recognize this is part of our brand, and this is going to be a big part of what we do moving forward. So thank you for saying that, and I'll take that as encouragement. Do we have a second?
Second.
John Salowitz seconds. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, we have a lot of paperwork to sign before you leave, and the next Parks Board meeting will be in this room on January 10th of 2024. So thank you, everybody.
I need to. If I can.
Okay.
You go.